So guys, right now we are where Ross used to be back in the day. It's now called America Canada School of Medicine, and we are here with some Bajans right now. Bajans in Dominica. When you guys heard about the situation that took place with Ross, what was the first thing that came to mind?
Oh wow, well, you know, in Barbados, we have to say that I don't think we understand the fullness of it, all right? We just knew that Ross was coming to Barbados. And we wondered, Ross is coming to Barbados? Okay, that's good, you know. But there were some people who were asking questions and like, but how could Ross just pick up and come to Barbados? But truthfully, there was not a lot of discussion, you know, deep discussion, let's say. It was surface, deep discussion. About Ross coming to Barbados. And, you know, they're in Barbados and seem to have settled in. You know, they're using what we call the Lord Erskine Sandiford Center. It's where, you know, where they would have their classes. That would be, you know, where the school is, actually. And then they live at, what's the name of the place? Coverley. So they live in Coverley.
Yeah.
And we don't really interface that much with them.
No, I think they are pretty much independent in Barbados. Like, what we knew was as if, you know, the word on the ground was as if Dominica had a storm. It can no longer facilitate the university, right? And that's how Ross comes to Barbados, and that's all we really knew.
I used to work at Ross, and I know a number of the individuals who are higher ups, and you can pretty much tell, even if you don't know them. But I remember when the CEO of Adetalem was the parent company of Ross, she indicated that they finally have a competent government that they get to work with. And it's not like it seems like they were having a lot of struggles with the government in Dominica. And as a result of trying to do things, you know, I guess they felt some sort of way about it. And I think they spent about $60 million to leave Dominica to move to Barbados. Now, one of the questions that a number of persons always tend to ask, I'm not sure if you guys know about it, but the people who are in charge of the housing facilities of Ross, do you know who they are?
Well, we know that the Coverley is owned by Maloney. Mark Maloney, who is a construction magnate in you know, in the region, in Barbados, the region.
Coverley was more of, I would say, I think it was more marketed to, let's say, the diaspora coming home, right? The way they had it set up, it was going to have its own like store and its own, you know, medical center. But I don't believe that it made its point in Barbados, right? So it was kind of, I wouldn't say abandoned, but it wasn't flourishing the way I think the developer had thought it would be, because we would see it, and then one minute they were building, and then that.
Why was that?
Because I think some of the rules that live on areas.
Yeah, there were lots of rules.
You know, like in the diaspora, you have what we call restricted like deeds, where you can't do this on your property, you can't do certain things, you know, you have to take it to like a community center, and that's all part of living in a community. And I felt, you know, as a person, you know, from the diaspora, that was the kind of setup they had. Like, you couldn't, for example, like you couldn't, I would say, keep a party at your house. You keep it at
the noise level, I guess, and this kind of things there.
You have to keep the party at the center.
At the center, you know, like those type of things we have.
So it was more structured and where you can do a number of things.
More communal living.
Yeah, but this is not what you're seeing today. They pretty much converted it to Ross.
Students living.
And it has been my understanding that the government is also affiliated with that. I'm not sure if you heard of this.
Well, we hear the rumors are there, and especially when we got to Dominica, we're like, okay, you know, it's kind of illuminated, but they have a strong relationship, which is a little odd, because before, when the then government was in the opposition, they seem to have been loggerheads with Mark Maloney. I mean, he was like enemy number one. You know, but once they got into government, they became great bedfellows.
Seems like the money might be flowing somewhere.
I
maybe.
don't know, but maybe, we don't know. But they became very, very good friends. I mean, in fact, there was a court case where the Prime Minister herself, you know, she said on a platform that she was going to help this woman who her child died in an accident because there was a piece jutted out into the road, you know, from Coverley. So the way that it was built, it caused obstruction to traffic, and it was said that it was not supposed to have been built that way.
So is that when they built the roundabout? Is that
Yes.
when the roundabout came up?
They created a roundabout because there was a real fatal accident there, where a mom was going to the airport very early one morning, and her child was killed, and so that became a big issue in Barbados, and the prime minister, said that she would even be the lawyer for them,
and that didn't happen.
Well, after she got into office, we literally heard nothing more about that case. I didn't know that, because they were even trying to prosecute the mother. Of the child, and she stepped in, and that was a big campaign promise, and that Mark Maloney is going to pay. And once she got into office, that's one thing I know, that we haven't really heard anything of the case. I'm not saying nothing happened to it. It was no more a publicity. A public thing. But so we don't know the type of relationship. There's lots of rumors, that she's always on his jets, and that's what takes her all around. But these are rumors,
But what are your thoughts on Mia coming down to Dominica? I mean, she's the Caribbean chair, from my understanding. And do you think that there's some sort of one-side leading kind of thing when she's actually supposed to be neutral, especially when she actually sent military to Dominica to infringe on the people's rights? I'm sure you guys heard about the whole situation that's taken with the protests and stuff. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I wasn't, as a Barbadian on the ground, meaning you're not in the politics all the time. We weren't aware. We weren't aware how entrenched the prime minister was in that whole situation. But since being here in Dominica and going to Salisbury Village, the people have been able to give us details, story, explaining their version, explaining what really happened on the ground. And I'm deeply, appreciate that they were open and they were welcoming, and they really treated us well to tell their story.
It was very shocking for us. The first time I actually knew about it was Friday night. Friday night, about 9 o'clock or so, I was having my show. And some Dominicans came on and started to type, and they even called into the show and educated us. And I just said on the show, I said, I wish I could go down to Dominica to speak to these people, because honestly, when I heard about it, I was so moved, because it didn't sound like something that happened in the Caribbean. It just sounded so far-fetched. And so I then called Michelle. I said, Michelle, you want us to go to Dominica? So, and by the morning, that was Friday night, Saturday morning, she booked the tickets. And, the viewers even helped to get us our tickets, especially me, to get here.
The viewers helped in every way.
The viewers helped in every way. Transportation. They helped.
We haven't had to do anything. They took care of us here.
That's good. That's good.
They wanted their story out.
They wanted their story out. And when I was coming here, all I could, if everybody said, "Why are you going?" I said, "I've got to meet the people of Salisbury, and I want to hear their story." And that is what we did. And really, it was very compelling. Sir, very compelling. And everybody had the same story.
Their stories were aligned. No one strayed. Everyone's story, timing, description, everyone said the exact same thing. So everyone's experience was the same. So how can this be, you can't be far-fetched when everyone's story is
that's true. And what do you think about the CARICOM chair coming to Dominica? Do you think that is a one-sided thing? Do you think that she should not have done that? I mean, yes, I understand she's part of the Bajan Labour Party, but what are your thoughts on she being the chair, who's supposed to have a neutral position?
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts?
That her position, as it's a temporary, short period of time. I believe it's through June, and I think that you're supposed to represent the entire CARICOM, and taking a side is definitely a conflict. I feel it's a conflict.
Yeah, I mean, I know that over the years that we've had, prime ministers, they've visited, Caribbean islands, and they would attend like special events that are being put on by political parties, but not something that seems like a campaign.
Yeah.
And being here in Dominica, to be honest, even though it's a 70th anniversary, to be honest, it does feel like a campaign. Just as we were even driving into Portsmouth, it feels like a campaign. And I think that if it was just as someone, was saying to us yesterday, if it was a convention, an awards ceremony, something like that. But this had a campaign feel.
Yeah.
Anybody, to be honest, So I think it kind of crossed the line. I wish she would have inquired more about it. I don't know how much she knew about the event, but I think it comes across in bad taste. And we heard that from
That is
the
sentiment on the ground.
sentiment. I mean, it was even, they felt it was disrespectful.
Yeah.
And there were people.
The ground of where Barbados, Dominica?
No, in Dominica.
Dominica, okay.
And they felt, the people we spoke with, they felt that they even, some of them were even getting angry with us when they knew that we were from Barbados, because they thought that she was being disrespectful.
Yeah.
It's like rubbing salt in a wound. That's what they felt.
Okay.
And the issue was Ross, and then they talked about the electoral reform, that she did not help with that, even though she had done a report in
That
2013.
was prior to her becoming prime minister.
Yeah.
She became a part of helping them trying to reform, the electoral boundaries in the Dominica. But no one, from what we hear, no one knows what was in that report. No one, then she became prime minister, and then things did like a 360, things changed.
Sounds like there's some sort of secret stuff going on.
It appears that way, and now that we're here, it feels like this mystery.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't understand why would people be so angry even to see us, and that we had to let them know, no, we're come in peace. We came because we heard what happened to you.
Yeah.
And we want to take this opportunity, really. I mean, as Barbadians, we want to take this opportunity to say to those who are watching, and even to yourself, for whatever it's worth, we're just two persons, but to say, we're sorry, because we didn't realize the pain. We did not realize the hurt. We spoke with an older woman that I left there crying yesterday, because she said she's so frail, but she said, even if I have to go in the courthouse with my stick, I will get justice, because she was hurt during the during the raids, and with the tear gassing, she fell down and had to be lifted up by young people, and she's an old woman in her 80s, and she's still hurting from that. And so we felt the pain in Salisbury.
It seemed very, they seem very vulnerable. I mean, you have weapons against persons that do not have any weapons. They had no firearms, the way they tell it, they have no firearms, and canisters coming through windows and doors. And one even said that someone was struck in the face. A canister came right at him, struck them in the face.
An 80-something-year-old woman was struck in her forehead with a canister, and she died. Why would you do that? And it sounded like we were not in the Caribbean. What could we do but shed tears with them? And we don't know that story, Dominicans. We don't. So Barbadians, Barbadians are very kind people. They're loving people, and I think that when they hear this story, they will understand why it is that there were so many that did not want the Prime Minister here. Of course, those are of the party, they didn't mind, but there were we met so many that, how about you?
I personally, I didn't really fancy her coming. I thought that the fact that she brought in was sent in the military persons to infringe on people's rights, especially when I saw the letter that she wrote, and she was talking about one part of the Constitution, not the full thing, because there's freedom to assemble. and the police infringed on the right of the people to freely assemble, and this is why there was a ruckus right there. So she said in the military people, or in cohorts with selling the military people was not really, you know, helping Dominica and stuff. But
and you're a young man, you know, you're a young man, and so it was. We had the elderly, we had the youth, and they were very angry.
We had a very young senator. He was 24 years old. And you know, at the time she was 14 when her grandmother was injured, and you know, subsequently died after that. And I think
injured in that whole protest when the troops were here, and her grandmother died.
After we hear a lot of stories about respiratory problems, you know, difficulty breathing, respiratory, and when they tell their story, it seems like it takes them back. It's happening all over again. They're re-traumatizing just to tell their story, but they want the story out. They welcomed us to film and to ask questions, and we're grateful for that.
Where can we find you guys?
On Instagram, the Marcia Week Show on Instagram. If you go to YouTube, it's the Africa Bridge TV channel. Africa Bridge TV channel. Yes.
All right, thanks a lot.
Guys, thank you.